what's good for you. I'm empty-handed and I'm feeling blue, and I'm gonna dream till the day that I die.
Hello and welcome to the video. In this video I'll be sharing my blueberry milk chocolate stout recipe and methods. Out of all of the beer styles that allow the addition of fruit, I have to say that I enjoy the stout versions above all. Stout already has a good backbone of flavour from its grain bill, and as such does not get dominated by the fruit taste. For me, this means still having a beverage that tastes like beer, but with an interesting twist. Blueberry works very well in stout, and there are many great commercial varieties out there on the market. It's fair to say that using fruit in beer brewing comes with an awful lot of advice for the best results, so this will be the main focus of this video. So let's talk about fruit. First of all, be aware that the taste that you'll get from fermenting fruit is often not the same as the flavour that you'll get by eating it raw. For those that are particularly interested in experiencing this, then I would suggest experimenting with making your own fruit wines. It will certainly benefit your beer making also. This is certainly something that I enjoy myself, and the results can be very satisfying. Fermented blueberry is one of the fruits that is close to its raw taste, so that is what you can expect from its contribution to this beer. It will not overwhelm the beer, but will become one of the clean flavour notes of this beer if you follow my guidelines. If you are using fresh blueberries, then it is strongly recommended to sanitize your blueberries in a solution of sodium metabisulfate and water before freezing them. You will also find that this is sold as Campden tablets. It really is best to freeze your fruit for at least 3 days before thawing and adding to your beer. If you bought your blueberries already frozen, then you can skip this part with confidence. Freezing the fruit is a trick that breaks down the fruit, and when they are thawed they will deliver more taste. This is true of using this in beer and also wine, of course. Speaking of taste, that brings on the next topic. Never boil your fruit, it will simply kill the flavour. Always add it during fermentation. If you add the fruit close to when the rest of your fermentables have finished, then you will certainly get a stronger and cleaner flavour from the fruit. My suggested method for this recipe is to do exactly that. It is on this basis that the fruit calculations have been made. I would certainly suggest using hop socks or muslin bags to contain the fruit for easy adding, clean up, and also to avoid blocking certain types of fermenters. If you are using a standard non-conical fermenter, then it is important to transfer your beer into a fresh fermenter before adding your fruit. If you choose to not do this, then the end result will not be as clean or pleasing. If you have a conical fermenter, then you can add the fruit directly after you have dumped your trub and hit clean beer from your bottom valve. In terms of the chocolate flavour in this beer, this is brought in on 2 levels. Firstly by the grain bill, but more strongly by using an essence. This essence can be added at the bottling stage, and you can experiment with the flavour that you feel fits best, as described in the following video on my channel that you can see on screen. In addition to this, the milk element of this beer is provided by the use of lactose, which is otherwise known as milk sugar. This will provide the beer with body and a level of sweetness. So let's go ahead now and look at the full recipe. This is for a full-size batch at 23 litres or just over 6 US gallons. The ingredients used in this recipe will produce a very flavourful stout with a nice malty backbone that is balanced with some sweet flavours from the dark malts, fruit and lactose. This produces what I would call a very moreish stout that can be enjoyed by most people. Its alcohol level at just over 6% keeps it interesting, but some may feel that it tastes stronger than this due to how this recipe is set up. This recipe is repeated in the YouTube description and is also available on the Grainfather recipe tools database. So usually in a brew video like this I would go through the brew with some more detail. But in the interest of keeping this video shorter, I'm going to go through some quick important tips now to get you brewing this one for the best. You will find that within these tips there are solutions to common brewing issues. Your grain crush is the most important thing to get right when it comes to brewing. Do not assume that just because a homebrew store has made this crush that it is correct. If you are milling yourself, a credit card size gap is a great starting point. If you are experiencing slow sparging, burning on the bottom of your system or pump issues, then this could be down to too fine a crush. However, if you are experiencing too fast a sparge and efficiency issues, then chances are your crush is too coarse. Always spend time mixing in your grain before your mash. Do this slowly by adding small amounts at a time, stirring in between. Failure to do this properly will certainly have a hit on your efficiency. All too commonly these days I see homebrewers sparging en masse with their sparge water heater positioned above their grain basket. Avoid this method. Sparging by hand is more effort, but it will give you a better efficiency and improve the flavour of your end beer. Be sure to scrape the bottom of your system during the boil with your brewing spoon to avoid build-up and burning. During the course of a 60-minute boil, scraping the bottom 3 times will keep you out of trouble. Remember, the idea here is to scrape, not scratch. Stir in all of your additions during the boil. This will ensure that these additions have the desired effect on your brew. Always give your yeast the respect that it deserves by using yeast nutrient. It is not expensive and ensures that your fermentation will go as intended. Never leave the Grainfather lid on during the boil. This will lead to boil overs and DMS. Always do a whirlpool at the end of your brews. If you are using a drill addition, then always ensure that it's made of stainless steel. Do not listen to people who foolishly use paint mixers for whirlpooling made of other materials. Yes, they are cheaper, but no, they are not food safe. For the sake of a small amount of money, you could be poisoning yourself. And there is clearly nothing smart about that. Always aerate your wort to create a great environment for your yeast. This will help ensure a minimal amount of fermentation lag and further promote your yeast health. Always ferment your beer in a stable temperature environment that is suitable for your chosen yeast. Fermenting in a room that is thermostatically controlled temperature-wise is never going to give as good a result as a setup that is relative to your actual wort's temperature rather than a whole room's temperature. Brewers make wort, but yeast makes beer. The last tip that is relative to this brew is that it is best to pre-mix your lactose within some wort before adding it to your brewing system. This will ensure that clumps do not hit the bottom of your system and burn. This also applies to other types of sugar, of course, in powdered and solid forms. So skipping ahead now, the brew has been completed and you can see that my yeast is happily eating away. I let the fermentation of the malt fermentables come almost to a finish, and then I took my fruit out of my freezer into a room with an ambient temperature to let it thaw. I usually allow at least 4 to 5 hours to let this thawing process complete and to ensure that the fruit is not too cold when I add it to my fermenter. We do not want the temperature of our beer to drop much at all, after all. Once your fruit has thawed, then here is my suggested method. Firstly, I will dump the trub from my conical fermenter until I hit clear beer. If you are using a fermenter that is not conical, then it is strongly advised to transfer your beer into a fresh and sanitary fermenter. Take a clean and sanitary plastic bucket. Ensure that your hands are also clean and sanitary. Remove rings if you have any. Better still, wearing gloves is also a great option. Just remember that they also need to be sanitary. I dipped my sanitary gloves into Star San to ensure they were totally sanitary. And of course there's an awful lot of sanitary going on here, but hey, it's really important. Then you want to stretch out a hop sock over the bucket that is, well, you guessed it, totally clean and sanitary. And have a trusted helper add the fruit from bags into the sock. Ensure that the plastic bag does not touch the sock or the bucket as to not break the chain of sanitization. You will find that one sock can hold a great deal of fruit. In this case, I managed to actually contain 1.2 kilos of fruit in each hop sock. Once the socks are fairly full, then tie them up and add them into your bucket. Do not worry about the juice in the bucket, this is inevitable and also useful later on. Once you have all of your fruit safely in the bags, we can now start adding them to your fermenter. Hold each fruit bag above your open fermenter and give them a squeeze and slight roughing with your hands. This is to release the sugars and juice from the fruit. Repeat this for both bags, and with the fruit now added, we can add the juice that is sitting in our bucket. Do not be super slow about this process, but there is no need to panic around either. With all of our fruit now added, we can sit back and wait for our yeast to eat it all for all of its goodness, before going about our usual process of bottling or kegging. This now concludes this video. I hope you found this video to be useful, interesting and enjoyable. If you didn't enjoy it, then please tell me why, and if you did, then the same goes. It's all well and good getting thumbs up and thumbs down on YouTube, but it's also important for content creators like myself to understand what people do and do not like. So just let me know, guys. So if you did like this video, then please do like it on YouTube. This really helps me out and allows the videos to be seen by a wider audience on YouTube. I have always got a lot of new videos planned for the future, so if you are interested in seeing my new content, then please subscribe for future content. If you have any questions on anything that I have covered in this video or any other video, then please do not hesitate to get in touch with me via YouTube or Facebook. I'm a member of pretty much every Grainfather Facebook group and more. Happy brewing!